Okay, well, thank you very much for joining today. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special treat for y'all. I'm excited to, this is on your screen right now, right? Joining us this is Sonia Palomino, correct?
That is it, Palomino.
Okay, all right, very good. And we're going to be talking about some things today that are critical for you, right? That are critical. We're going to be going over some things pertaining to money and things about managing your money, things about making sure that we keep track of things and emergency funds and all kinds of topics that we're going to go over. Okay. And we encourage you to respond with questions. You can always email me or Sonia for questions in case you have some follow-up thoughts about some things. Okay. And so we're excited. We're excited about this. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome, Keith.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to jump right in. I think the first topic that we would like to probably go over is making money human again, right? Making money a little bit more on the human side, and instead of such a struggle and oh my God, I got to keep my receipts and all this kind of. Tell us a little bit about your when you interact with your clients. How do you make it more human for them and less threatening?
Absolutely. And I can tell you, one of the biggest things that I find there can be a tend to be a lot of overwhelm. There's a lot of overwhelm. And I work with really brave people because most people, 95% of Americans don't even have a budget. And so they're just kind of just rolling out of bed and they're just hoping it's going to come together properly.
Mm,
And so when I work with my clients, I know that. So they're brave and they're bold. And I find that we want to get some clarity in their situation, and they're not just about their numbers. There's a whole person behind that, and it can be overwhelming. I joke with my clients, I'm like, scrubbing the toilet sometimes looks better than, even thinking or talking about your finances, though nobody else is going to come in and do it for you.
mm,
And so then there's that layered weight on their shoulders.
yeah. A lot of stress, right? A lot of stress with finances, and it can be
Yes.
avoided, I'm sure, which you're going to talk to us about, so that we don't have to overwhelm us, right? We don't have to feel that overwhelming if we have a plan. And that's why I'm so glad that you're going to talk about this with us today to learn how to manage that. That's really
Yes.
awesome. Our setback, but oh, I did have a question for you. Are men
Yes.
and women different with regards to finances?
It depends. It depends on the man, it depends on the woman. I see it go both ways. Both, I
Hmm.
think it more, honestly, Keith, I think it's more of a personality.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be more the distinction that I would see
yeah.
because
Okay.
I can see men, I see it go both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your point's taken. I remember taking a course, and I know you're a big fan of Dave Ramsey, and he talked about um, how some personalities are very like energetic and they're ready to take on the world and all this, and then other people are analytical, right? And I think he
Right.
categorized them into two different categories. Um,
Yes.
yeah, do you remember what those two
Yeah.
categories are? Yeah, that would be
So
great to share that.
what he's referencing, Keith, there's typically there's a nerd and there's a free spirit. That's
Okay, there
exactly.
we go.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm the nerd. I'm the
Okay.
I'm the nerd.
Yes.
That's great.
I'm
That's great.
I'm a recovering nerd. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it's good to know though, right? It's good to know.
yes,
But I think too, right? Both people got to come to the table when it comes to important decisions with regards to their money. So at least the free
yes.
spirit doesn't feel totally discounted, right?
Well, and if we just get kind of really serious for a moment, what I see happening a lot when there is that dynamic that is going on, it can change the dynamic in a relationship. And instead of it being a husband and wife working together through their finances, it feels more like a mom, a parent, child, mom, dad. And so
Oh,
it changes the dynamics and just in a really, it's not in a cooperative way. So yes, I 100% agree. Having
yeah,
both people coming together to the table because every nerd needs a free spirit. Every free spirit needs a little bit of a nerd, and having those things come together to play.
yes.
And they both provide value and benefit to it as well.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. That's great. That's great. Well, you know what? What are some of the biggest mistakes people do make with their finances? Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I would say the number one biggest mistake is that people aren't doing it. They're just like they'll
Yes.
lay out something, they'll have a notepad and they'll lay out their numbers maybe for the month of whatever, and then
Yeah.
it gathers dust or it's in an Excel spreadsheet and they don't look at it again. So the
Mm.
biggest and at that point in time, it's almost a waste of time, honestly, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to take the time, we're taking the time to do it. Let's take the time to do it. Let's put energy into doing it. So if we're not going to get the results and we're just going to start again in maybe 3 months or the first of the next month, and then month by month, the next thing you know, it's tax time. You're like, okay, where did all that money go? And so that's the biggest mistake is people just aren't doing it. So if
Right.
you are out there, if you feel like you're alone, I'm like, no, 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 you're with everybody else. And so I get to see the
Yes.
behind the scenes with that.
Yes. Yes. How do you, given that that's the case, what is your approach to helping people maybe get on the right track
Yeah.
for
I
managing
would
those
say
finances? Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing is just the first thing is to assess, just we've got to assess where are you? Because I work with professionals that secretly feel overwhelmed and exhausted, not knowing where all their money is going. And so the what we want to do is coach them on a cash flow plan that makes them confident that their money is going to allow for them to relax and get back to living. So if we take a step back, the not knowing piece is so critical because it goes back to being overwhelmed, it goes back to being exhausted and just not even knowing where to start. And Keith, I think it's more difficult now than it was before because you'll remember back in the day we had a checkbook register, we didn't have auto pays, and now there's this thing called Apple, and no one knows what that 99 cent, $1.99, 19.99, like what's that for? I don't know. And it's just a whole list of these auto pays that are just every month hitting that account. And so there's just, and it's some are auto paying on a credit card, some out of the checking account. And so it's scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it feels almost like we got to wrestle that alligator first. What do you have? What do you have? What is going out on with those auto pays? What are your bills? Just to really assess that first.
Yes.
That's the number one key.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of times people get so busy in their life, right, that they forget where their money actually is going, and
Right.
like you said, they can't even name it. Like, what is that charge for or whatever.
Mhm.
Or they don't realize maybe
Yes.
like, whoops, I had three subscriptions when I only needed one or something along that line, you know?
Oh, right. Or like in a household, one person has the Amazon Prime membership, and then we discover there's two. There's two
Yeah.
Amazon Prime. Why is
Like,
that?
whoops.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
I,
almost, it's like I think it's the number one way to give yourself a raise. It's to really evaluate where is my money going? And is there
right.
anything that do you really need it? Like the things that you do, because I'm a big proponent. There's a sacred yes. There are things that we are a sacred yes for. And let's fight for those things. But so many things we just blink money away. And it
Yeah.
is if you're gonna get a raise once you start to get your arms around this.
Yeah, yeah, which is awesome. I mean, I can only imagine if people start really taking the time to take a look how much money they could probably end up saving that they didn't realize, you know?
Right. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I tell people all the time, being in the insurance business, I tell people, listen, it's worth shopping around because these carriers, these insurance carriers, they're in it to make money. And so
Right.
it all depends on who you approach when you obtain a quote. Um,
Right.
they might be totally different because there's a lot of variables involved. If there's an agent involved, there's commissions that need to be paid. And so because commissions need to be paid, they could be charging more. And so you just have to be
Right.
willing to shop around a little bit, let an expert like yourself or myself to
Mhm.
assist. That's all we're doing is assisting, getting the best
Yes.
bang for your buck. It's
Well, in
excellent.
case I have to say, as a line item on my clients' plans, if they don't work for someone that offers healthcare as a benefit, that is one of the major line items in someone's plan and talking about overwhelm and exhaustion. And so just really having people just know who they can plug into, like yourself, so that way they can get just honestly feel smarter, just to make sure what they have is really
Right.
the best thing for them
Yeah.
with regards to healthcare.
I agree. I agree. I think we just need to turn people into feeling confident about their decisions. And I think the only way you can do that
Yes.
is educate people.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a trust factor too, right? when we're
Yeah.
talking about money, in my opinion, Sonia, man, I'm telling you, I just feel like people are scared. People are
Yeah.
scared and they're very protective over their money and very suspicious of others. And I tell you what, if people got a good handle on their finances, like you're talking about doing, wow, a lot of that fear could be gone, right? Because you're in control now
It's true.
and you know where
It's
your
true.
money's going. That's awesome. That
And
really is awesome.
the biggest feedback, Keith, I get from my clients is they say, I wish we would have done this years ago. I'm
Yeah,
like, I know, right? But we didn't. So we're going to move forward with where you are right now. We all think that. And
yeah,
so it can be so freeing just to see what it is.
yes. Let's talk about lifestyle for a minute, right? There's a term, living outside of your means,
Mhm.
right? And I'm just wondering, because people feel that when times are really tough, you know what, I deserve that chocolate shake or whatever. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? And
Right.
sometimes they treat themselves not realizing that their wallet could be hurting, you know?
Mhm.
How do
Yeah.
you talk to people about their lifestyle and maybe adapting their finances to their wallet?
Wow, I have lived this one. I think there's a big misconception, and I tell my people, and I want you to hear this out there as well, that I'm not Miss Perfect finances over here. And as a matter of fact, Keith, we almost lost everything. And this was around 2002, and I had a $70,000 corporate job and that income went away. Then we lived on $40,000. So from over $100,000 down to $40,000. And the sad part about my story is that we were using debt, even making over $100,000. That was a little while ago because of exactly what you're talking about, lifestyle. And so, a real quick example for me, like I would receive a bonus. So what I would do, I would spend the bonus when I knew I was going to get the bonus, and I would spend it again when I got the bonus. And you that's where we introduce artificial money called debt. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
artificial money is when we bring that in and it fills the gap. And it was around 7 years for us to turn around our financial situation.
mm,
And so we went from making good money down to that 40,000, and we turned it around, and we didn't win the lottery because we don't play it. I didn't My parents thankfully are still here. It didn't happen in some major big way. I think people think it's got to happen in some major big way. That's how I'm going to have my break. But I'm telling you what, when it comes to lifestyle, it is the everyday, those
mm,
small decisions that we're not even realizing that we're making. It's going to be
yes,
lost in the grocery store. That is the big black hole. It is going to be lost in with things like Amazon, with purchasing being so easy. And so
yes,
those are the two kind of like areas that I just see just through not even knowing and just not being conscious as far as where those dollars are going to go.
right. Yeah, making it with that companies have made it very easy to spend your money online, and it's
Well,
very,
and
very dangerous.
it is, and it's called frictionless. They want to make it frictionless, so I don't need to reintroduce myself to Amazon. Like it's almost here before I pay for it, right?
Yeah, right.
And so it's so easy and it's so frictionless. We're unconscious almost in our
Mm.
spending.
Let me ask you about, since we're talking about mistakes here, right? Um, what are your thoughts on credit cards?
I think we almost lost everything because of debt. And so I have a special spidey sense in my spirit that we almost lost everything because of it. We were able to turn it around. And not only did we pay off all of our credit card debt, we almost lost our home. I mean, it was massive.
Mm,
And in that 7 years, not only did we pay off the credit card debt, we were able to also pay off our mortgage, which we saved $135,000 of interest we did not pay to the mortgage company.
mm,
So I see that, and I know back when we did not have money and we had an emergency room visit, thank goodness for the credit card, because if not, we would have not, right? And so there are times and places for it, but I am telling you what, I am not a proponent of it because you end up paying for it twice. If you can't afford it the first time, why are we paying two, three, four times just because of interest and how it's accrued while you
mm,
sleep? And
yeah.
so it's a very, very dangerous, slippery slope. And we went to the exact opposite side of it, where I'm still trying to get debt. They're mailing us notices saying, Sonia, we're not going to give you any more money. They said something nice like your debt to income ratio is not in line with our standards. translation would be stupid. Like for us to loan you more money, and thank goodness, because we had no business borrowing more money. We actually had to turn it around, stop using it,
Yeah.
and then start to dig ourselves out of it. And like I said, it was 7 years to dig ourselves out of debt. So I am not a proponent about credit with credit cards.
Yeah, yeah. I personally, I don't believe it. The only time I think maybe I might bend that rule is if you can pay it off at the end of the month and you can do that.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have
Yes.
the
Yes.
discipline to do that and you have the income. But yeah, outside of that, ooh, my goodness. When I was younger, yeah, I was in the same boat and when I was younger. I got myself into some big trouble, you know. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely
Well, and
don't. I agree with you there, and I don't think people should use them as frequently as they do.
yeah.
You know what? Our next topic is called budgeting without feeling restricted, right? You
Yes.
know, yeah. What can we talk about or introduce people to not have to feel such a weight on their shoulders, I think, is what they experience, you know. Is it
Yeah.
tools? Is it timing? When should I do that? How should the approach should be?
The best way for me to answer that question, I love this analogy because without this analogy, I'm going to share, I just find it can fall so flat. And so I'm just going to have us imagine for a moment that we're sitting at a stoplight and we're looking over to the right. And I'm like, Keith, look at that guy in that vehicle next to us. That person, he doesn't have his hands are not on the steering wheel. The steering wheel is ripped out of that vehicle. There's not one. The whole front windshield is blacked out with blackout tape. There's not a front windshield. And the rear view mirror is not there either. And that's what it feels like for most people, right? That's what it feels like. That's the overwhelm. That is the exhaustion. And so what I find is most people are hopping into that financial vehicle, they're flooring it, they're working really hard, and they have nothing to show for it. That is the exhausting piece of it.
Mm,
And so the strategy that I want to share today is that I feel like there's a three-tiered approach to that question because when we talk about that, well, how do we want to transition that? How do we want to have a transformation happen? The first thing is we want to have a steering wheel that we get to insert into that financial vehicle. And that is going to be based on, well, how does the income come into your family? And if it is a paycheck by paycheck, for an example, every other Friday, there's your structure. That's a steering wheel. We get to put our hands on it. Everything's going to hang off of that. If there are two people, one person's the first and 15th, another is every other Friday, well, we got to look at the calendar and like literally detail that out. When's the income coming and what is the structure? Entrepreneurs, there's not a pay structure in a lot of cases, right? They get paid when it's based on cash flow. And I hear from my entrepreneurs like, Sonia, I can't quote unquote budget because I don't know when my income's going to come in. I'm like, I own my own company as well. I totally get you. And so then we just put you on an artificial structure. What day of the week are you the least exhausted? Monday, if you're returning phone calls and from the weekend, not a good day. Friday, you're exhausted. What about Wednesday? And so we get to pick the day. And so having that structure is completely, it's critical. It's critical to get their arms on that steering wheel.
hmm
The next piece is we want to be able to look out through that front windshield because if there's a pothole that is coming up around the corner, we want to be able to see that. And so the way that we become, instead of being reactive, and most people are just reactive in their, you will default and you will be reactive. Let me just say it that way. So to transition that, we have to be able to look ahead over the next 2 months, paycheck by paycheck by paycheck over the next 2 months to look to see when does the income come in, when do the expenses go out, how does it shake out at the bottom because no one is balanced. Like you
Right.
can have an overage this pay period, a shortage coming up in two, and if we don't see that coming up, that's the birth of debt. That's what I did. I lived that way. That
Mm,
was why we had a lot of debt. I was like, I'm dumping money to the credit card, AT&T Universal to be specific. And then in 2 weeks, I'm like, where's the credit card? Because we don't have any money. Like we've got to buy food. And so I didn't have the front windshield. And
mm,
so and so having that front windshield to be able to look ahead is critically important. And then lastly, I was not smart enough to figure this third piece out, but very early on when I started coaching over 19 years ago, 14 over 14,000 consultations ago, I I got woken up in the middle of the night and I was shown, all right, Sonia, you're missing the rearview mirror. You want to take this. This is good. And you want to reconcile this to the bank account, bring reality into the discussion so we can have the pulse as far where is someone at. And so I noticed when I implemented that third step with the first two, we're now sitting in a vehicle, we have our hands on the steering wheel, we're looking through the front windshield, we have a rearview mirror. Just like when you go to the grocery store, you use all three elements, your money deserves the same thing. And then we're able to get off this dark, windy country road and it's raining and lightning and you're able to get on that interstate ramp and press cruise control and play your favorite song. Like
Yeah,
that's the feel of
that's a
that's why
great
they say,
analogy.
yeah, that's what
Yeah,
it feels like.
yeah, yeah. That's a great analogy. Every I think you know what I've ran into a lot with some folks is that they don't have they don't have the approach or the tools to do it. And because it's so overwhelming, like you've been describing sometimes, to identify every line item, right, or expense
Mhm.
on your budget, identify that. And that takes some time, doesn't it? That takes some time to research all that and figure out where your money's going. Because if you don't even know where all your money's going, now you got
Yes,
to do some research to figure out where did it go,
yes.
and that takes time. And I think people, my experience, Sonia, with this is that they don't have the tools to be able to do it. It's already from our conversation obvious that they don't have the proper mindset about the approach, but now they don't even have the tools, right?
Mhm.
For somebody to maybe hold their hand, and I'm a big
Mhm.
advocate for that. I really believe that almost like a toddler, right? You hold their hand until they're ready to walk on their own type situation. And I think a
Right.
lot of people don't have the tools and they don't feel this is such a blessing, Sonia, because I think that someone like you can be trusted. You're not trying to get into their pocket. You're trying to
Mhm.
help them manage through their life with their finances. It's just a beautiful
Yes.
thing. I'm just really grateful for this conversation.
Thank
Um,
you.
but back to tools, Sonia, back to tools for just a minute. What tools or apps or software, whatever, what would you recommend someone maybe investing in to utilize?
I wouldn't recommend spending money on the tool. I would, for an example, I use Google Drive. It's a free platform that is out there. And what I love about Google Drive is that it's not housed on a computer. It's, wherever you are, you can see it. It's living and it's breathing and it can be updated and it's not static because
Mm,
um, we the we want to know what is your financial pulse and it can change and it can change and then that's going to help educate you so you're going to make smarter financial decisions and ultimately make your money matter because so many people are working for money but they're not making it matter to the extent that it could be. And to me that's sad. I'm like, all right, there's so much potential that could happen there just with some clarity and some insight to that as well.
excellent, excellent. That's great. Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of apps out there, and people when they hear all that stuff, they're like, "Well, which one do I use, and which one could be
Yes.
easy?" And somebody told me about an app the other day that you can take a picture of your receipt, and it'll just save your receipt for you, And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea." But then again, I got to remember that
Yes.
as soon as I do it, I got to remember to take a picture of the receipt. So yeah, it
Well,
can't be too difficult, right? Or it
no.
would, it would be hard and make it harder for you.
And Keith, the other thing about the apps and things like that too, because 20% of this equation is having that structure, is having that foundation. And then the other 80%, it is behavior. And so the app, if we're just going in and it's, whatever whatever it's working, it's going to possibly pull in the information, the historical information. And then if we're not even going back to look at it and we're not looking at that to educate to better project out, then what happens is it doesn't become something that is it's not serving the purpose of a transformation. It's just an extra something to do and then you're also not even getting the results from it. And so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
falls into that
Another
bucket as
task.
well. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. 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 Makes it hard when you already have a million things on your plate and now you get it. And I think the mindset, right, or this paradigm, right, is that, oh no, I've got something else I've got to do. I've got to do the
Right.
budget at the end of the month, you know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it makes it very, very stressful, very stressful.
And so Keith, that on that note, so then what I want to do, I just want to encourage your listeners. I want to say, okay, we want to flip that. We want to flip it because what happens typically happens is that we tend to feel we are dragged behind our money. And the visual that just came to mind right now, just imagine that, there's the railroad tracks and it's like your body physically is being like dragged over those railroad tracks. It's like clunk, 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 clunk.
Mm,
It's painful. It hurts. You're not
mm,
even on a bicycle, even with a little bit of cushion to help get you over those railroad tracks. And so we want to transition that so that way you are in front of it, not being dragged behind it, because that's the exhaustion and overwhelm is when we are behind it and being dragged behind it. It is our job
yeah,
and it is our job to know our numbers and to get in front of it. So we're the ones in control. We're the ones making decisions, not the ones
right,
being dragged behind those decisions.
right, right. So you know what? At this juncture, I'd like to recap for our listeners, just so because we talk and a lot of words are spoken, but I've always said this, and I believe it, right? Auditorial skills, or we're lacking them to the point where we can recall or remember a lot of things. So I always like to go back and folks, we talked about making money human again, right? And so Sonia gave us some good points about how to reduce the struggle and how to emotionally approach things, right? We talked about mistakes that sometimes we make, right, with our finances and the blind spots that we possibly could have. We talked about that a little bit. And our real life image of how we live, and do we spend more than we make, and we talked a little bit about that. We're going to go in deeper to that though. What I'm really excited about, ladies and gentlemen, is we are going to Sania is going to we're going to talk about having a class, and literally she's going to walk us through a budgeting class. And I think that that's going to be something that's going to be spectacular for us, if you would want to attend something like that. That's going to be very exciting, and that's coming in the near future. And then we talked a little bit about budgeting without feeling restricted, right? We don't want to feel this weight on our shoulders. And I love all the analogies. Remember the analogy of the windshield, right? You can't see what's in front of you, right? Or you're behind a train getting up, bump, bump, bump. Remember, these are great
Mhm.
analogies to keep in mind as we're trying to navigate through our finances. I think the last thing, Sonia, if it's okay with you, I'd like you to tell my audience, if they wanted to reach out to you and talk to you maybe and fill in some blanks, and or even have some questions. Is there somewhere they can go perhaps? And I can certainly share your website if you would like me to do that.
Yep, I think that would be fantastic. And yes, you can just go to my website. It's Enjoy Consulting, but it's spelled with an I. So INJOY consulting.com. And
Okay,
it truly is a joy. That's where I got the name from. This is not even like work. And so you can just
excellent.
go to the website. Yep, right there. That's
Okay.
so smooth right there. And then there's that yellow button, Talk with Sonia, and it's a complimentary 30-minute call. And I would just be honored. I would be honored to hear more about your money story because it's not the end of it. And so how do we walk through that together?
Right, right. Okay. All right, so everybody sees the website. I've got it up on the screen, and I'm hoping and praying I've got this right. So forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to say it again. Enjoy, INJOY consulting.com. And you'll see a big yellow button. You can't miss it. It's right in the upper right-hand corner, Talk with Sonia. In
And
the
now,
event
Keith,
that you have,
it it did switch to like I don't know if it's a screensaver that's there on your computer.
let's see. That's a great question, Sonia. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's all right. There you go. I can see it now.
Okay, perfect,
That's
perfect.
perfect.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting used to this technology thing. But
Yeah.
so again, right in the upper right-hand corner, talk with Sonia, you click on that and you can get a hold of her and have a great conversation. Um, this has been exciting, and I'm looking forward to some future sessions, Sonia, that we can maybe talk a little bit more about possibly educating people, and helping people walk through a budget, and say, listen, this
Mhm.
is, and the step by step. And I know you have a process for that. And I know you probably can point to some, like you said, using the Google thing, right? What did you call it again? Google what?
Google Drive, it's
Oh,
just a
Google Drive.
platform that you
Okay.
can basically upload spreadsheets and things like that too.
Ah, perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. Folks, again, if you have any questions, now you know how to get a hold of Sonia. If you need to get a hold of me for any kind of questions, all right, or advice about anything, even with regards to insurance, I can still help you with that. But
Mhm.
really, our goal here today is to educate you and to at least whet the appetite. Now, this is only part one of our conversation. Sonia and I are going to come back again. We're going to have part two and talk about a few more topics that we think are critical for you to know. And then we're going to follow up with a budgeting session so that you can walk through a budget with ease and peace of mind, I'll say. Okay. So I hope you were educated. I hope you felt good today. Sonia, any closing thoughts or anything you would like to share?
I would just say, just don't feel defeated, don't feel discouraged.
Yeah.
And this work that we were talking about, Keith, it's very private work. And it's not something that no one celebrates the person that's sitting there looking at their numbers. And this is really the pulse is about your cash flow. How is your cash truly flowing? And so I just want to celebrate everyone that's listening to this right now. And you're not alone. You're not alone. And that's why we are here as well to help encourage as well on this
Yes.
journey.
Yeah. And it's beautiful because and I'll close with this, folks, is that you need to know that there isn't any obligation. Nobody's trying to get into your pocket. In case you're
Mhm.
wondering, why are you doing this? We
Mhm.
are here to try to help. Okay. And you just need to know that. All right. Um, so don't feel like I know that there's a suspicion out there, right? And a lot of people suffer from that because of the society and culture that we live in. And it's unfortunate because there are some good people out there. And I believe you're looking at two of them right now. And we are sincerely, sincerely just trying to help folks in this difficult world that we live in. So I certainly hope you take advantage of this, but stay tuned because there will be more. Okay. Thank you again, Miss Sonia. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome, Keith. Thank you.
And we'll be in touch, folks. You take care now.